for like forever. We've been trying to crack the code on leadership, what really makes a great leader tick. Well, today, we're going to dive into some seriously cool new research that basically tears up the old rulebook. It gives us a completely new language to understand what a leader's personality is all about.
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? We all kind of feel like we know a good leader when we see one, but the moment you try to nail down the exact personality traits that apply to every single leader, well, that's when things get really messy really fast.
For the longest time, the whole conversation has been dominated by models like the Big Five. If you've ever taken a psych class, you've definitely heard of these. They're the general traits we use to describe pretty much anyone. And look, they've been helpful. They've definitely linked things like being extroverted or conscientious to being an effective leader.
But here's the big question. What if we've been using the wrong tool for the job this whole time? What if these super broad categories are just too blunt? What if they completely miss the unique stuff that actually makes a leader a leader?
So here's the core of the problem. Our personalities aren't some fixed, static thing. Research shows they change depending on the situation. Just think about your own life. The person you are as a leader at work is probably not the exact same person you are at home with your family. Researchers call this contextualized personality, and it's a huge hint that we need a special toolkit built just for analyzing leaders.
This analogy just nails it, doesn't it? A general fitness test can tell you if someone's fast or strong, sure, but it can't tell you if they can read a defense in a split second or throw a perfect spiral while about to get tackled. To really understand a leader, you've got to watch them on their field.
So, if the old models aren't working, how do you build a new one from the ground up? Well, you go back to the most basic tool we have for describing other people, our words. This research took a really fascinating approach by deciding to decode the actual language we use when we talk about leaders.
This whole thing is called the lexical approach, and the idea behind it is actually pretty simple but also kind of brilliant. The thinking goes like this. Over hundreds and thousands of years, if a personality trait is truly important to people, they'll invent words for it. So if you want to find the real building blocks of leadership, you don't start with some old theory. You start with the dictionary.
And let me tell you, the process here was intense. First, researchers waded through over 3,000 adjectives to find the ones that were most relevant for describing leaders, both the good and the bad. Then they got hundreds of leaders to rate themselves using this special list, and they got hundreds of followers to rate their own bosses. The data they collected was absolutely massive.
And it all boiled down to this: 199 words. Now, this isn't just some random list. Think of these as the carefully selected fundamental building blocks, the DNA, really, for a whole new way of looking at leadership personality. So after all that data was crunched, and the researchers saw how these 199 words clumped together, a brand new framework started to take shape. But it came with a huge surprise: a really interesting gap between how leaders see themselves and how the people they lead see them. Okay, so check this out, because this is where it gets really good. When leaders look in the mirror, they see themselves in 5 dimensions: energy, psychopathy, organization, irritability, and intellect. Simple enough. But when their followers describe them, they see those same 5, and then they add 2 extra ones that the leaders seem to be totally blind to: supportiveness and weakness. So followers have this more complete 7-part picture of the person in charge.
Let's just quickly break these down. You've got energy, that's your charismatic, enthusiastic leader. Then there's the dark side, psychopathy, which covers things like being corrupt or sadistic. You have organization, being orderly and focused on performance, and its polar opposite, irritability. Think cranky and aggressive. Intellect is pretty straightforward, being wise and clever. And then you have the 2 big ones that only followers seem to see: supportiveness, being understanding and trusting, and weakness, which looks like being indecisive or confused.
So we have this new 7-dimension model. That's cool, but does it actually tell us anything useful about the real world? Well, to find out, the researchers took their new tool and used it to compare leaders across 3 totally different fields: business, the military, and religion.
And the results were pretty wild. Take a look at psychopathy. This dimension, which, remember, includes traits like being manipulative and corrupt, was way, way lower among religious leaders. Business and military leaders, though, they scored quite a bit higher. Which, when you stop and think about the different pressures and goals in those fields, it kind of starts to make sense.
And now, let's flip it and look at intellect, the words like wise and insightful. And would you look at that? The pattern completely reverses. Here, religious leaders scored the highest, which really fits with the idea of them being teachers and guides. This is just powerful visual proof that a leader's personality profile is absolutely shaped by the world they work in.
So, what does this all mean for us? What's the big takeaway? This research isn't just another theory for a textbook. It's like we've been given a new, high-definition compass, a much more precise and smarter way to navigate the whole world of leadership.
So let's boil it all down. Number 1, context is king. The personality that makes a great general isn't the same as what makes a great CEO or a great priest. Number 2, and this one is huge, followers see things leaders are blind to. That gap, those 2 extra dimensions of supportiveness and weakness, that's a massive blind spot where leadership can either succeed or totally fail. And finally, number 3, we just have a better language now. We can move past vague ideas and use these 7 dimensions to have much smarter conversations about who we pick for leaders and how they can get better.
This new way of thinking isn't just for researchers, it's for all of us. It's a new lens you can use to understand what's happening in your own office, on your own team. So as we wrap up, really think about it. Energy, psychopathy, organization, irritability, intellect, and especially supportiveness and weakness. How does your own boss measure up? And if you're in charge, how do you think you do?